Well, hello and welcome to the Alpha Anywhere demo and Q&A webcast. My name is Dave McCormick. I'm VP of Product Management here at Alpha Software, and I am pleased to present Dion McCormick, no relation, who is our lead solutions engineer. Today, Dion will be covering up some more, I think on ViewBox control stuff, might be wrong about that, but he's also here to answer your questions. So if you do have questions, go ahead and type those questions into the questions box of the GoToWebinar control panel. So let's get started. Let me take you off mute. Looks like you're still on mute. Hello, Dion, are you there?
I am here. Hey, how you guys doing?
Fantastic. Let me go ahead and make you the presenter. And there you are.
Excellent, excellent. Well, hey, everybody, how you doing there? I hope people up in the upper north are staying warm and safe. I think it's still, weather's all over the place. It's just crazy. It's getting a little nicer down here in Austin, but it's still pretty crazy out there weather-wise. So be careful, be careful. Hey, everybody, just want to say thank you for joining us. It is February, late February, man. This month's really cruising right along. And we are going to continue our work. Actually, not ViewBox. I'm going to go ahead and finish up last week's advanced search and then also talk about the repository table. So we'll come back to ViewBox in the near future. We've been doing some things behind the scenes, and we want to continue to drive the adoption of that because it's an amazingly powerful component that gives you an enormous amount of flexibility in terms of implementing your systems and creating really wonderful user interfaces, which is a key critical element of any new or any existing application and when you're building a new one. So with that in mind, first, we are here for your questions. So take the time to go to the questions area of the GoToWebinar control panel. And when you are there, then go ahead and sign up or put your questions in there, and Dave will be monitoring those, and we'll try to get to as many of those as possible today. And also remember, as usual, you can email us at guides, G-U-I-D-E-S, at alphasoftware.com, and send us those questions ahead of time. It allows us to prepare and build content and put things together. So we always appreciate when people do that. Essentially allows us to do our homework. And, you know, as my mom said, do your homework. That's how it works. Okay, so with that, I also want just to remind you that Transform continues to grow in capabilities by leaps and bounds. New versions are being released, new capabilities, and it's just amazing. That team is really moving along very, very quickly, and had a great Transform Tuesday yesterday. If you're interested in learning more about that, you can contact us at Guides, right? Or which would you rather have, Dave?
You can certainly send it to Guides, but the official email address is TF as in transform, TF service at alphasoftware.com. It's a slightly different team of people. But
T as in Tom, F as in Frank, service at alphasoftware.com.
That's right.
Thanks. I don't think those are the official U.S. Air Force, call out letters, Gamma Delta, Zappa.
It would be like Tango Foxtrot.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah?
Oh, there you go. See?
Yeah, that sounded right.
There you go. Tango Foxtrot.
Years ago. Yeah.
Very cool. Very cool. And again, amazing stuff going on there. What's also really exciting is there's a lot of work underneath the covers to tie Transform and Alpha Anywhere together to create systems that you can't even imagine building without it in the short period of time. And so there's not only the visual newer parts like Transform programming language and manifests and other capabilities that have been added to the platform, but also a lot of stuff that's in development under the covers that we can't wait to help. And one thing that's really cool about that, and I think this is super important that you understand this, is that Transform is built with Alpha Anywhere. The app, everything, it's all built on top of Alpha. So the ability for Transform to do what it does is facilitated by Alpha Anywhere. And thus, Alpha Anywhere has been growing, and a lot of new capabilities have been put into Alpha Anywhere to support the Transform platform, the Transform app, that some you see, some you don't. It's just some of it is deeper, low-level stuff, but it's really maturing the Alpha Anywhere platform in ways we never even anticipated a year ago. And so what we're going to be doing is, as more and more of those capabilities come to fruition and come out of the back rooms and the development labs, we're going to be highlighting those and bringing those to you, because as Alpha Anywhere developers, you're going to be able to take advantage of a lot of these capabilities. And there's some real fun stuff coming along the lines. I shudder sometimes because I'm like, okay, I already have everything I have to cover up to now. And now we have all this new stuff. I'm just getting anxiety. It's just crazy. It's just, how much can one man bear?
Can you can you
Yeah.
cover it as fast as it's developed? I know it's a challenge. I agree. Yeah.
I know. I feel like you remember that the Lucille Ball skit,
Oh, is this the one where
the
she's doing the
chocolate factory.
dipped bananas? Yeah, and she's bringing up
One of
this.
my
Yeah, one of those. I see what you mean.
best movies. She's sitting on the end of that line. That line just keeps coming, gets faster, and she's like stuffing them in her blouse and putting them in her mouth, and anywhere she can shove these things. It's just
Hilarious.
she was so brilliant, just so brilliant. And real quick note: if you ever visit California, and specifically the Bay Area, you have San Francisco, and right across, there's the Golden Gate Bridge, and then right across there is it's called Sausalito. It's this really cool little town, and Sausalito is this wonderful. You can go get fish, and you sit out and you see views of San Francisco skyline. It's stunning. If you do, you have to go across the bridge and hang out there. But right next to it is a little enclave called Tiburon, and it's a little small neighborhood, and it is gorgeous. And what's amazing is, and I'm getting to the point, on the tip of Tiburon, it kind of is like, it's like the fjords. It kind of goes in and out. There's kind of like this tip that is on the end of Tiburon. And if you look right, you see Sausalito. If you look left, you see the coastline. If you look straight ahead, you have the most magnificent view of the Golden Gate Bridge and San Francisco. And that's where Lucille Ball's house was, right there. It's this gorgeous small little mansion on this point overlooking San Francisco. So she got paid pretty well for what she did, and she was brilliant. So she earned every penny of it. But if you ever go to Sausalito, check it out. It's such a cool town. Love it. I used to spend a lot of time there. Okay, so this week, what we are going to focus on is I want to finish off our discussion from last week, which talked about the advanced search capability. We demonstrated with the list, but then I screwed up and didn't do it. Or I'm sorry, we did it with the grid, and I didn't do it with the list control. So I'm going to show you that today. And then I want to talk about the repository, because that's the other aspect. Is the repository is a built-in capability of the Alpha Anywhere platform. And it's been there for a while, and different elements of Alpha depend on it being there. So I want to kind of show you there how to set it up, how to manage it, etc. But more importantly is how you can use it yourself, which is pretty exciting stuff. So I'm going to jump on over into my Alpha Anywhere development environment here, and I'm on UX controls. I'll go down to my list control here. As you can see, I've got a drop-down menu for those that are newer. These are my different projects. So I have a single workspace, and then I can break it into different what are called projects for different content. So this is my demonstration. So when I'm talking about Alpha Cloud, I've got some sample stuff here. When I'm doing expanding menu here, if I'm doing file stuff, it just allows me, instead of having everything in one massive list, I can kind of put things different from this standpoint here, and have different things like, and this are my list control demo items, etc. And you can do the same thing with your system. Is you could have like default, but then if you have like a mobile solution, you could put your mobile stuff in a project. So you kind of centralize it there. And then also if you have like a back office, front office, so there's different ways to handle it from there. So I'm going to go ahead and create a new control here, UX. I'm not going to use a template, but I'm going to click OK. And I'm going to start with a scratch because I just want to show this here. So I'm going to put in my list control. So I'm going to go ahead and put list customers. And I'm going to use the quick setup genie here because I don't want to spend a lot of time doing this. It's faster to let Alpha do these things here. So I'm going to click our Northwind, select our tables here. You'll notice here, just as kind of for people who are newer, up here you can tell the type of content you want to look in your database. So when I open this, I was just looking for views. But if I click here, it's going to show me tables or views. And I could say, oh, I don't want to see views. So this allows you to kind of tune what you're seeing here within the system. So I'm going to select customers here. And I'm going to grab a few of these customer items here, just for giggles. I'm not going to filter or order it. And you know what? I don't even need a detail view today. I just want to build a list with these things here, just to do it really quickly. Okay, so I'm going to save this. And I always append it with the component type, because that allows it easier for me to see stuff on the drive. So let me do a working preview here. And here we have our list. It's kind of hard to see, so I'm going to go back in here. I'm going to surround it with a panel card. I'm going to create a panel header, just a kind of thing there. And I'm going to tell the list to expand to fill that container. So by doing this, it's going to expand to take up the space of a panel card. And by default, a panel card will take up the full list. By the way, there's a cool feature I got to show you. It's really new and it's really neat, especially if you're doing mobile stuff. So I'm going to explain that in a few minutes, but it's pretty cool. Sarah, as a heads up, it's that new screen dot height functionality. So just to give you a heads up there. So the other thing I like to do is I'm going to go in here. Oh, I'm using Alpha Blue. I'm using one of the new styles. Okay. So nothing super exciting so far. It's something you've seen. Here's my list of customers. I don't have a detailed view or anything else here, but I want to be able to search these customers fast. And so I could do a couple things. I could actually go into the list control and I could go to the properties and I can say it has a search part, enable that search part, and then set up different fields, which is fine. And that works great. And if you have dedicated searching, that's the way to go. It's awesome. By the way, you can roll your own search in terms of putting fields and putting buttons with Action JavaScript. But for now, we'll just do that from there. Now, I'm going to go to panel header here. I'm going to go over here to other controls. And I think it's in other controls. Where is that? It's advanced search. Let me find that where it is. Where is it? Is it advanced search? There it is, right there. It's in the other. See, we get so, I mean, that's what I was saying, anxiety. There's not enough room for all our data controls. This thing is going to probably be like 3 times as large by the time we're done. It's crazy. But there's one in data controls, more, and you'll find one called advanced list search, and click OK. And we'll call this advanced search. So in the case of the grid, it was a built-in component capability. In our case, it's a separate control that you put on a UX to then interact with your list. So that's why it's on right here. So that's an extra control. And that was the difference between how you do things in advanced search with a grid or in the list control. And again, one of the benefits of the list control, and again, the list control, every release gets more and more powerful. The idea is we want to have the ability in a list to do everything you can do in a grid and more. And more importantly is have all the styling capabilities, the responsive capabilities that are involved with a list. It's reaching that point where, lists are the way to go from the standpoint here. So I've got my component advanced search in here, and I'm going to go ahead and double click on that to open it. I could also go here to control properties and click it here, either way. Okay, so this is going to look like last week. Basically, you have your advanced list search control. So first I'm selecting which list because I might have multiple lists on mine. I'm going to click a field. Now what I'm doing is telling the advanced search control, hey, here are the fields that are available for you to use. So I'm going to click here and I'm going to say, I want you to allow the user to do some searches, say on company name. And when they select company name, they can pick from one of the kind of controls. So I'll just do text box. I'm going to add a second one here for, let's say, contact name, and I'll do a text box. And I'll add a field here for city. And in that case, I'm going to put a suggestion, and we'll show you that in a moment. So we kind of did this last week, but I want to kind of reiterate it from here. Notice the other styles of controls. We can use a date picker. We can use a date range, a step indicator, a switch, combo list, button list. So it really allows you all the different types of controls that you would maybe need to set up a search on the system. Okay. So I've got company name, contact name, and city. Since we did suggest, I've got some other settings. So first we need to tell it, well, okay, I'm going to allow you to suggest the city. So we got to set that up. And it's just like a drop-down box. We're going to select here, select our data source. Going to select the table here. In this case, it's customers. And I'm just going to go ahead and grab the city out of it. So the idea behind this is that we're loading this suggestion list with all the different cities that are in this particular data. You may be pointing at another table, like if you had a lookup table with cities and codes and stuff like that, you'd probably do that from there. Now you can pick the different search type. You can do a contains or start with. It's really up to you. Start with is a little faster, but both are viable within there. Okay. And then now you can actually specify a field for the search value other than the one that's in here, but we're not going to do this at this time now. One thing that's kind of cool is that if you've set this up and you need to go to another UX and reset this up for whatever reason, you can click export settings, copy all of this out, go to import settings, paste it, and it will then just regenerate this here. You'll see that in our conditional styles builder. We have something very similar where instead of forcing you to manually go through this every time, look for these export settings, export and import settings, because this will allow you to quickly recreate this without spending a lot of time. Okay, so let's go ahead and save this bad boy. We'll go to work and preview. Notice there's no G in working. It's working. Work and preview. So you'll see up top, we have our area up here. We have our list here. Now I can click here to add new search field. Oh, interesting. Let me try something here. Oh, I've got to make that panel header a little larger. Let me do this. I'm going to cheat. I'll come back and do that in a moment. I'm going to go ahead and add, I'm going to put this all in a panel layout. And I'm going to go ahead and create a new panel card here. Okay. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to actually put my search site in the left panel. We're on the left to right and there. So little on the fly magic. And I'm probably taking up too much space. So I'd make that smaller. I'd go to this panel card here and let's just make that 15% of the width. So I'm basically saying this panel card should only take 15%. This other panel card will automatically expand to take the rest of the space. Thank you, responsive design genies. Okay, so I'll click add a new search field. Let's do company name. And I'll type company name here and I'll go ahead and put in, let's say BERG. And I'm click run query. Company name, is that a company name? Maybe it's case sensitive. Let's try that again. Company name. What's going on here? Did I not hook it up properly? Wait a second, let me go over here. Yep, there. Company name, label, text box. Might have to check on that. Let me try something else real quick while we're at it. Actually, I'm going to expand the space here. So much for my wonderful demo. That was going pretty smooth up to now. I must do something. Go ahead and make this 20% so we see a little more space. Okay. Let's try contact name. Oh, I know what I did wrong. Okay, I'm an idiot. And you have that on tape.
Oh, I don't know about that.
No, you're going to use that in the future. It's like, I love it. It'll be like a radio show. You know, when I do something wrong, I'm going to hear in the background, you're just going to hit a button that says, I'm an idiot, you know. Okay, let me go to company name and type in ALF. Then let me go ahead and click here, and then you'll see I can tell it which type, and it defaults to equal. So I'll do contains. Now it works. So I just was moving a little fast. So very important, the default is, and actually let's go ahead and span this a little bit wider so we can see it. And this is tweaking and adjusting. Okay, so we'll go here, we'll go company name, I'll put in BER. And then here you'll notice that it's currently equals, but then I can say contains, run the query, and here you go from here. And I can go ahead and like clear this. I can add a new search field, let's say contact name, and I'll put in AR, and I'll do a contains, and we'll run that query. And you can see it's finding all the contact names with to have AR in it. So let's try that, a D, and do the query here. So this has the ARD in it. And again, I can add multiple ones. I can say, okay, I want that. And the cool thing is I can say, I also want the company name to start with, let's say, AR and contains, and run that query. And it's going to do both of these at the same time, which is handy. So now it's doing that filtering. One other thing we want to do here, and we'll go ahead and fill this container, is show you also real quick, since I've gone ahead and set up the city, let's go ahead and experiment with that and show you what it looks like. So now I can add a new search field and I can say city, and I can put the city in here. I can start typing it, and you'll notice that it automatically does a look ahead. And city, let's see, Berlin, how about Mech? And I think it's on the third one it does. Mexico, let's go London. Okay, there's London. And again, I can then define how it wants it. It's equal to that in that case, and I can run the query. Here's all my London accounts here. So you can play with that, enjoy it, so you get that benefit. The real cool thing about this is that, and we'll show you in a moment, is that if I set up what's called the repository, I can save this information. That's what I'm going to do next. But the key thing I want you to take away is that the list control has an advanced search function that is identical to the grid control. It is not built into the list, but rather is a separate control that links to that list. You can have multiple ones on your screen at one time or on your UX at one time. So with that, I'm going to go into the repository settings, but I wanted to see if anybody had any questions about that in terms of the advanced search.
Well, there are a few questions, actually. So first of all, it looked like when you set up that suggest list, you went against a table that presumably that had the cities in it, right? But presumably it had those cities in there multiple times, right? Because I think you pulled that from a customer database. So it looks like Alpha will dedupe that. Is that?
Yep,
is that
it does
correct?
when it builds this query, it does a distinct clause.
Distinct, right? Okay,
yeah,
gotcha.
So you don't get
Wonderful.
multiples.
Nice. So you can use a data source that's got repetitive stuff and not have to build a special one for it. That's cool.
And I did this on purpose because then I know I can only find a city in my suggestion list that exists, because it's only going to pull the ones that exist out of that one table. Most likely in those kind of scenarios, you'll have a separate lookup table, and on those lookup tables, you can, you might have a foreign key relationship, and so you're able to do those kind of things there, and it'll handle all that complexity for you.
Awesome. So the other question related to this is, can you save those searches as a user?
Yes, absolutely. And that is a great question. Let me go ahead and show you how to do that. Okay, so first we have to do a little homework. Okay, I'm going to go back to the Web Projects Control panel, and I'm going to go here to Tools, Database Explorer. And if you haven't used this, it's kind of fun. I use it a fair amount. Now, if we go in here you can add connections. So I'm going to go ahead and add a connection. So I'm going to click here, and I'm going to click plus, and I'm going to say, okay, I want to add this connection string in there. So now you'll notice here, now I can explore that database, and I can see the views and the other things here. So you'll notice here are the current tables that are in my system: categories, customers, employees, etc. So this is a quick, and you'll probably use Navicat. I use Navicat, but you might use these things along those lines here. So what I want to do is there's a special type of table that Alpha can add to a database source that allows you to do some really cool stuff. So let me go ahead and show you that first. So I'm at the Web Projects Control panel. I'm going to go to Project Properties, and I'm going to scroll down till I find a setting called Repository Settings. And you'll see that it's asking me, oh, okay, what are those settings? So in this case, it's what table are we going to use for the repository? So I'm going to go ahead and tell it, to get the repository for this application, I'm going to select my same database. The table, well, you know what? It doesn't exist. And so one of the cool things you can do is you can either select a pre-made table, or you can say, hey, let Alpha create that table for me. So I'm putting in the name of the table here, and I'm calling it repository. Very stunningly interesting, isn't it? Then I'm going to click Create Repository Table, and it's going to go ahead and run a little script. And now I have a repository table, and it's all set up and ready to go. And you'll notice it automatically knows what are the fields that are in there and how they map to this functionality here. So now I'm going to click OK and click OK. So now if I go back to my Database Explorer and I open up here and go to my tables, it's not showing, but if I refresh, come on, refresh. Oh, it's taking a second to do that. Come on. There we go. There it is right there. And here are the fields that it created in that table. So it did all that automatically for me. I didn't have to do any of that there. Now that the repository table is in there, it enables a whole bunch of cool features. So let's go ahead and go back into the advanced search here. And I'm going to go down here to customize search objects or options. And I'm going to say allowed load saved query and allow save query. It's asking me for a unique key, so I'm just going to go demo. And that unique key is what's related to this particular advanced search, because you may have 5 of them. So it kind of needs to know, well, if you save some advanced search, how should you, what you call a key, so it knows which ones are associated with this particular advanced. So maybe I put in here advanced search 1. It's just some text to define how this will work here. Okay, and click OK. Save this, save often. Go into working preview. And let me go ahead and notice I now have a new button called load query. But first, let's go ahead and do company name is BER is contains, and I'm going to run that query. Okay. Now I'm going to click here and save that query. And I'll call that BER company. So I'm going to save that query. Okay. Notice it's telling me it's saved. I'm going to go ahead and create a new query, and the company AR, and it's a contains, and I'm going to go ahead and run that query to make sure it works. Yep. And I'm going to save that query as AR contact. Okay. So now I've got them. So I'm going to clear all this, and I'm going to click load query, and now here's a list of my queries. So I'll select BER, boom. Load query, AR, boom. So essentially you can create self-service for the customers in terms of they could create a pretty advanced one. They could have 5 or 6 or 7, who knows how many of these searches that define there, because the more complex their data structure, they may have some pretty like I want all customers in the state of Texas that did over $10,000 of business in the last 24 months, and so you could quickly build that together, save it, and therefore the next time you need to rerun that, you just sit there and say load query, bring up my customer list, run that query, and there it is. It just runs it there. And self-service is important because now you can give more power to your users, and you have to do less development because you're not having to do every little thing. You can say, hey, for all this, searching capability, sort of a business intelligence capability, you can do it. You can do it yourself and manage it yourself. Thus, I don't have to anticipate every requirement that you may have. So pretty cool stuff. Now, all of this is stylable, all the buttons, the queries, the objects, etc. So you can refine this to make it, like, for instance, I'll go back in here. I'm going to go to the properties here, and I'm using Alpha Blue, but I'm going to take a compact theme and run the compact theme, which I like. And now when you're on your desktop sort of web browser, you'll notice it's a little tighter, and you'll see it just looks a little nicer. The other one's more optimized for a mobile platform. And this doesn't have to be here. Let's go ahead and, let's go ahead. You could do things like, for instance, you don't have to necessarily put that. So let's have some fun with this. I'm going to go here, and I'm going to put in a panel header. And oops, I'm going to go ahead and delete this. And I'm going to add a button here. Now I'm totally off script. And I'll go search. I am so off script now. Okay, so I'm going to take panel card number 1. Now notice I have layout size 30%. I'm going to dock it collapse before. So what that does is it hides this or collapses this panel card so it's not visible, so I only see there. Now I'm going to go to this search here. I'm going to add a new JavaScript action, panel action, set active panel to be panel card 2. Always name your panel cards. Bad practice not to. Show search panel card, and always add a comment. So I'll click save here, and I'll go save. So now my working preview, I'm out there. I've got my content. Notice it's taking up my whole screen, so I don't waste space. I could put another couple columns in there. Have my search button there, click that. There you go. And that is there. So search, let's go ahead and load a query, and we'll go Oh, no, let's load a query and use AR, run the query, and there. Boom. So you can see now I preserved all that screen real estate and I'm not wasting space because I can just click the search button. When I click out of it, it does out of there. And you could append some other things, make it your own faster kind of stuff. Like when I click that search, I might want to automatically close that and not show it. So that is the following. First, it is the advanced search capability. It is available for both the grid and the list control. It is super easy. If you would like to be able to save those, all you have to do is first go to your project properties, make sure your repository table is installed and running and part of your project because it depends on this capability. And then in your advanced search component, go to customize search options and allow yourself to save and load those and give it a unique key that's associated with this one advanced search control here. And a lot of fun, very easy to do. And open up for questions. I have one other thing to show everybody, but I'd like to go ahead and just take a moment to open for questions, see if there's any questions.
Yeah, so a couple of questions. One is, can you change the default for the search filter? Or is it always just what it is? Is it always blank when you come in?
Oh, the default.
Yeah.
I don't know. I'd have to go back and check on that. This is where you can change all of the styling here. But I'm not sure if there's a way to like set the default. There may be some Action JavaScript that's available or something like that, or more importantly,
and that would be my other question. Is there possibly Action JavaScript for the advanced search control?
Let's see. Let's go ahead and there's search, a grid, clear a search. I don't think so. I think this is advanced export. So I don't think it though at this time, but we could also check this out. Let's go to my JavaScript functions. Okay. We go. Oh, my mouse is. I think it's low on batteries.
Yeah.
It gets tweaky. Okay. So let me go to here. No, come on. Hey, kids. Oh, I know what I did wrong. Ah, there we go. Okay. Method. No, I don't see anything as far as the advanced search there, but it's just we probably haven't got, nobody's asked for that. So we often put out these features and capabilities, and we look forward to our wonderful developer community to let us know how we can improve it and make it better for them.
So, so I'm reading something that Sarah has posted here into chat. She sent it to all of us, saying the advanced search control is in the data control section of the UX because it both lets you set a value and get a value. You could use get value method to get the internal data for the control that represents the current display query, and you can use the set value method to set the control to display a particular query definition. So it does sound like that is something that you can do.
Oh, cool. Let's see this.
So if you need more information, I guess email us over at guides. We can point you to the right documentation for that.
Something's
also,
going
Sarah
on.
has given us some other documentation. You can also find that in the chat window, and that is for the responsive design stuff that you were working on before. So how to set the container height of the screen.
Very cool. Okay, so let me do this function here. I'm just going to play with this. Display. Okay, and I'll go var contents is equal to dialog dot object dot get value. Okay. I wonder if this returns as an object, but we'll see what it is. Okay, so that's called DisplaySearch. So now we'll go here. We'll add a button to our DisplaySearch here. I'm just going to say DisplaySearch. I think I did uppercase. Let me make sure I did that properly. Yes, okay. Always save because it'll probably blow up, and especially when you touch code.
Especially when you're doing a demo.
I know. Where's my button? Oh, you know what? when I put this button on here, I said this takes up the whole space. So the advanced search is grabbing it. So
okay.
Now we'll be able to see it. There we go. So that is what
you can that's what's in it, but
for example, name.
Yep.
The value is AR. The operation is this. So there's a certain nomenclature on that from that standpoint. But that said, you could probably turn it around and do a set value with the same kind of content.
That's exactly right.
Yep. That value there. So you kind of roll your own. And again, I'm just doing that with, to take a little experimentation. You could actually throw this into another field, just to kind of dissect it. But then you just do the get value, and then there's conversely a set value, and you feed it some JSON. Probably a JSON object would be my guess, but and then that will set the value of that value, so you can recreate that. And I guess that's underneath the covers. That's how it's saving and loading the search. It's just grabbing the get value, throwing it into the repository table. In fact, you know what? Let's do this.
Are you going to go look in that repository?
Yep, table? I'm going to go into my database explorer.
All right.
And I'm going to say, I've expanded, but I can do show data in the table. So there we go. And there you go.
Oh, cool.
There's my saved searches right there.
So if you had a search that you wanted to make.
I'm sorry, go ahead. So ... x ... is contains. I bet that means contains.
Mm-hmm.
It's like the like operator.
But the point is, you could set one up exactly the way you want. Pop over here to this table and say, aha, that's the format that I need if I want to use the set value, and
exactly.
make whatever tweaks you're going to do to that.
Yeah, neat. Great question by everybody. And thank you, Sarah. That was very cool.
Awesome. You had mentioned, and I know you showed this briefly, but you'd mentioned that you could style the buttons in the advanced search. Can you point us back to where we can control the look of that?
Excellent question. So I'll go into the advanced search button, our system. I'll go down here to customize buttons and strings. And this is where you can customize the strings for the different things. So like the different icons, if you don't like those icons here, you can also change instead of saving queries, say filter or whatever you want to do on here. The actual styling of them, they're using standard, I think, text boxes and stuff. So you would probably just have to, I'll go ahead and put a text box out here for giggles. You would just go in and the default class for that, you would add the default class of that in there. Or you could, I don't know if you can override the classes in the search, advanced search. I think it pulls it out of the standard text box structure. So we'd have to look into something like that if you want a little more control.
Okay, great. Let me see what else we've got. Oh, so here's someone who brought up a question. Okay, so with regards to the repository, that's something that's saving data in a database. Does this require that A, you have a security framework, or B, does it require, or if you don't have a security framework, can you use your own security framework? Does security framework come into play here when we're dealing with a repository?
Great question, and the answer is no. The repository is a separate thing from the security framework. It's just it's a pre-created table or a defined table. Yep. And what's cool too about this, go in here, is that I'm going to go in the documentation system, is that not only do you have, the certain controls use the repository to save and load information, but what's also cool about it is that there are a set of functions here that allow you to read and write the data and understand what's in the web app. So in your XBasic, you can use that. And so I'm using that more and more. I'm saving. So here's a classic example. I have one system and I have it in production and pre-production kind of scenario. And what I want to do is have different settings in those environments for whatever reason. What you can do is you can create the repository table. So your two databases, your production, your other pre-production or validation database has the repository in there. And then when you go, you can read out of the database essentially the settings or the value of the information in that. So you can essentially control things through there. If you look at other languages like PHP, etc., often they have text files, and this is another method you could use also, but they have text files that you can set the like different parameters, sort of like environmental variables that you want. And that's okay, and it works, but I like to put stuff in the database.
Like the old-fashioned INI files, maybe that.
Yeah. And we use the publishing profiles include some of that and puts them as files in the folders. But for more, I like this for the because then it's in a database, and whenever I have to go look at it, I literally can just go right in the database and look at it and see those data values right there. So if I wanted to change something, I change in the database. The next time it gets read out of the web app repository using any of these functions or by the system itself, it's just done. So it's a pretty cool feature, and I've been starting to use that more and more these days to kind of set up. I call them environmental variables, but they're just pieces of data that you want that are related to a specific implementation, and it's linked to that to a specific database.
Gotcha. Now, because the web application repository, I presume, is available to the whole web application, does that imply that a saved search that one person makes will be available to someone else who's using the same web application?
Yes. Okay. This advanced search here is specifically, so if someone else comes to here, they're going to see the same ones here because
it's see your searches, and you'll see their searches if you wanted to save them that way. Yep.
Now, in a grid component, when you have save and load searches in the search area of a grid, those are actually using the web security system to save that information with the username. So you may have to, if you want this to be the save load search, you may have to kind of roll your own if you want it specific to an individual user.
Mm-hmm.
So,
or some combination, because it seems like that ability to save and restore search criteria is fairly powerful, that you could do in JavaScript. So conceivably, you could have a list of these JSON definitions for searches and have them in a column and a table, along with who that belongs to. So Jim could have Jim searches, and Sarah could have Sarah's searches, that kind of thing.
Yeah. And hey, you know what? You could use the extended user information table now to store those in a particular column.
Yeah.
But I mean, that would all be in one, it could be like a text field and you extract it out of the text field. But, I would most likely you'd probably set up a separate table with, ID, username, and then advanced search control and list. Yeah.
So, all kinds of stuff. So there's a couple of documentation links and some information that Sarah has posted here into the chat window. So let's just hop over to that for a minute. So back to the CSS, you can't change the CSS within the advanced list search settings, apparently. However, but what you can do is you can add a class to the container that it's in, and then you can extend the theme to style it using style tweaks. So there is a way of styling it, but the way you do it is by putting it in a container and styling the container.
There's always, when there's a will, there's a way.
There's always a way. Also, there is a documentation link here for the web application repository if you want to read more on that. And let's see, I think that is it for the immediate questions to what you're talking about here. I think you said you had something else you wanted to show, or?
Oh yeah, just a new feature is pretty cool. I'm going to go, or not a new feature, but something I found really cool because I've always struggled with this.
Okay.
Actually, let me go ahead and do this. I'm going to go ahead and this is just real quick. I'm not going to take much time, but I'm going to go to UX component. I'm going to pick one of my standard components here.
Uh-huh.
And so it's a standard, like we'll go right here. And I discovered this by accident. Actually, I didn't even read the release notes, although I always read the release notes. Yeah.
Better read those release notes.
So let me go ahead and change the alpha to, let's go blue-gray. I'm like a Civil War buff. It's the blue-gray, on how I like these things look. Actually, it's pretty sharp there. I find coffee's interesting, but it's a little dark.
Yeah.
Dark. Okay. So I've got there. I'm going to go here. And on my first page, what I want to do is I'm going to insert a a container here, and I'm going to put in a container called a alignment container. And the alignment container is really cool because what it allows you to do is any of the contents in there you can align really easily. So let's see. I wonder if I have any images here. Let me go ahead and do an image here. I'll see if I have an image in here in my project or not. Do I have an image? No, so I'll just use the SVG icons. Always a good thing to do anyway. Okay. Okay. So first what I'm going to do is I'm going to save this, or I'll go ahead and just show it. I don't need to say this for this one. Famous last words.
It won't
Okay. So you'll notice that I've got my little icon here, and it's in the upper left-hand corner right now.
Mm-hmm.
But the cool thing about the alignment container is I can say, oh, you know what? I want to center align. So the container alignment, I want it centered align. So now I go in there, and you'll see. Wait, what happened there? Center. Oh, container width is 100%.
Right.
That's what I always got. I always forget to do that. I always go, why is it not working?
It's centered with respect to itself, you know.
Exactly. You know, it is. Yeah. Don't do what I tell you to do. You know, don't do what I mean. Say. So you notice it's there, but also check this out. I'm going to say also I want this to be middle aligned. And first, let's go ahead and check this out. Now, notice here. So kind of cool. And this kind of piece here. But I can actually go in here and notice the new container height here. It says screen height. So what's cool about this is that there is a new feature called screen height that depending on the size, so before I had to kind of do some weird things, but now if you just put height there. So let's say, let's go back into working preview. And then I'll make it a little bigger here. So I'll go to the iPhone 5 vertical.
So for those of you unfamiliar why this is a big deal, in HTML and in CSS, when you lay out things on a page, width is very well known. You can say, you know, make this 100% width, but height isn't. There's no such thing as 100% height in HTML because it's meant for your page to scroll on and on and on forever. So, so in order to do height, you actually need to know the form factor that you're on and its screen size. And that could be, and people have done it, but it's a ton of JavaScript happening in the background, which we've got.
It's a nightmare.
All handled for you here. Yeah, it's really, it's a pain.
The important thing is if you're doing mobile, this alignment with the screen height is like,
it's an enormous time saver. Yeah.
I was cleaning up another demo and I said, oh, you know, I want to put this stuff in there. And I said, oh, you know what? I should make it centered and right in the middle. And I did. And what I realized, which was really cool, is that it just all of a sudden said, oh my God, I don't have to tweak the alignment. Before I'd always have to do some weird tweaking and stuff. I don't know why. Yeah. But now it's screen.height for the container height. And therefore, the cool thing is that's responsive. So if you have a different device, it's going to resize this container. And when I resize the container, it's going to realign the alignment to be center and middle. And it's just awesome. It's great. It just takes it just works so much nicer. So so again, the thing I wanted to tell you is the alignment control, very, very handy. And then this other thing is the container height is screen.height. And it's in the release notes. But it was weird. I kind of like, what is that screen height? After I did it, I saw it worked and I go, oh, it automatically plugged that in there, which was nice. And then I went and looked at the release notes and I go, oh, I get it. So check it out, use it. If you've ever struggled, if you ever have problems speaking, if you ever struggled with getting the things aligned, we're really making an effort to make it easier to make nicer looking interfaces with less work. So things like the control bar, now with this alignment and the screen height, and a bunch of other stuff that's in development now to just make it easier and easier for you to make your interface look exactly how you want it to look like. Awesome stuff.
Very cool. All right, unrelated question. This one is, this person has got needs to build an app it looks like on a mobile device, and they need to embed a bunch of documents. And the question is, should those documents hang out in in-device storage, or should they go into a database? And sort of what are the pros and cons, and how would you go about doing that?
And this is a mobile solution?
Yeah, it looks like a mobile solution. Although
okay.
Yep.
I highly recommend, let me go ahead and bring up here. I think this is a good one here. I think it's already been set up here. If you have a list, oh, that's a static list. Let me just go in here and show this. Let's go to list properties, and I've got to enable a detail view. So what my recommendation is, I don't really like putting media files inside of the database. I think that's just kind of old school. And more importantly, more and more, we're putting all of our media files and stuff like on Amazon S3 or Azure, because then those systems do all the serving. So you can offload work from your server, your database, etc. So I tend to use metadata in the database. And then what I do is I have those media files as external. Now, one of the coolest things about Alpha's list control is that in my data table, I would have like a column that says the name of the document, whatever that happens to be, and maybe the type. Well, what the list control can do is automatically upload and automatically download media files and other link files when populating the list. So let's say this list is a list of documents. So it's got a name and a description and a date, and then a column that is the actual document file. Well, you can set that up in the database. You can set up your list control to point to those, and then you can say automatically download media files. When you enable this, you can specify the media files that are associated with that list, and Alpha will take care of moving those down to your system locally. Now that they're on there locally, success. You can now display them, use them, etc. The other thing that's important about that is that the list control, especially if it's editable data, the problem with embedding images in the list control itself is now the list itself has to pull down an enormous amount of inline information for those images, because the list control downloads all the data table information as JSON. And if you have an embedded image in there, the JSON becomes enormous. It's just, it really, you'll find you'll have problems. So I would look at doing them as separate files, use the built-in capability to automatically download media files and other link files when populating the list. And therefore, then your life is going to be nice. The other thing that's cool is now, like, notice up here it's server, but I can say, oh, you know what? I'm getting so many files, I want to put them on S3. And the other cool thing is that, again, when this goes to download the media files, it doesn't call your server. It says, oh, I'm going to go up to S3 and make S3 do all that work. So you can offload your server and make your server perform better. So
that's terrific. And that's all offline capable once the list is populated, right? You can lose signal after it's been populated and the list control still works fine. Cool.
Yep. Awesome stuff.
Terrific. Try to see if we have any other questions here. I know one was emailed in earlier. Let's see if I can find that one. This one is just kind of a little JavaScript question.
Sure.
Let's see if I can. Let me see if I can just actually paste that into something. I'm going to actually paste the question into the chat window for everyone to see.
I know. We're going to crowdsource this bad boy.
Crowdsourcing. They're trying to obtain a value of a column in a list control, and the method they're using is in JavaScript is var l object equals dialog object get control list, and then var fname is l object get data to. First name.
I tend to like, let me go ahead and create a function here, and I'll say insert method get. There's one here called list get value, and I tend to use list get value versus get data.
Yep.
So let me go ahead and copy that and close that, insert it. So again, what I do is I pick the list, I pick the column I want, and then the row I want right there. And that may be your solution there. So I'll go ahead.
Fantastic. Want to go ahead and put that back in chat?
Hey, don't tell me how to do my job. Jeez, man, pushy.
Watch it, McCormick.
Watch it, McCormick. Circular firing squad. Great question. Thank you.
Yeah, very good. I don't see any other questions. Time to get those last minute questions in for us.
Or if not, have a fabulous warm day.
Yeah, we get to take 3 minutes off.
Don't hit a moose on the way home tonight or anything. For all you people up north.
Polar bear is more More to the liking.
Anybody who's driving one of those cool tractors, like, that like Lost in Space that have the tracks instead of, raise your hand. I'd love to know who you are. Send us a picture of the rig.
Oh, here's a great question.
Oh, good.
I like it just because it's so technical, but
yeah, and it will obviously take 4 hours, and we want you to answer it in 3 minutes.
We've got 3 minutes to answer this one. No, it's just that, does Alpha have any tools that allow you to easily connect to terminal sessions such as SSH, FTP, SFTP, Telnet, things like that?
Well, what's cool is built into the Alpha is a whole bunch of pre-built
There's a bunch of pre-built FTP, including secure
FTP functions that are built in, really nice, and they're just super ready to go there. Also, I'm not sure about terminal, like pinging, but we have a bunch of HTTP functions in there.
Right, and we do have some stuff for SSH as well. Actually,
I'm pretty sure we do, because man, people have built that stuff for so long.
Yeah, take a look at that iNet namespace.
Yeah, it's in the SciNet space. Let's see.
And actually, if you go up into the menu, it's funny. I'm pointing on with my finger on my computer, as if that's helpful.
Click it, click it, click it. I love the part where nope, up another ½ inch, nope, over to the left 3 inches. There you go. You're like, do you not see it?
Exactly.
I'm going to kill you. Well, there's socket class, which may be it. Maybe it's the socket class. Making a socket connection to something.
Right. If we so we're trying to point in more or less in the right direction, but obviously you can send an email to guides@alphasoftware.com if you need more help to find that. But yeah, we can do that stuff. Also, .NET can do that stuff, which is the iNet namespace. And so you can we can talk to any .NET assembly which handles it. But I think that
in fact, it preloads a bunch of these already, like .NET, which is my guess is probably going to be under. And here's this is not our documentation. Notice it's not pretty anymore.
Yeah.
But this you can do like peer-to-peer and all that stuff there. Yeah. So you got a lot of stuff in there.
So that's where to look. But if you need help from us, go for it.
Thank you, everybody.
Oh wait, Sarah has an example of styling an advanced list search. Can she share with us? Yes, of course you can, Sarah.
Absolutely.
Hooray.
Let's get someone competent talking on this webinar today.
The last 3 minutes, we get the competent person.
I don't want to leave you guys hanging after that comment I made.
Should I make you the presenter?
Yeah, that would be great.
All right. So you should see a dialog box there. Oh, and there's your screen. Great.
Okay, where is it? Let me get rid of this real quick. So I'd mentioned that you can't style the advanced list search. There's no setting to do that in here, but you can add your own tweaks to the style sheet to apply styling. And so I just wanted to show you how that's done. So just to verify I haven't broken anything in here. There we go. So this is as it is now. If you go into properties and you go into this property, style subthemes and CSS tweaks, and go to the CSS tab, here you can add CSS definitions that will be loaded after the style, so they will override anything that's existing. And what I have here is some style that has been written using Sass syntax. Sass, syntactically awesome style sheets, lets you do this sort of nested syntax here where you can say, I have a class, I've called this one orange buttons, and then inside of it, I'm going to override edit. Edit is used for text boxes, text areas, etc. in the alpha style sheet, and button is used for buttons. These are the base classes for the base theme. But in here, I've picked this background color, which is a lovely orange, and changed the color for the text to be black, though I think it already is black. And then also added this border, orange border here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this class I created here, go back to my controls, take my advanced list search, add a container around it. I'm just going to put a regular container, but you could use a panel card, panel header, whatever it is that it's contained within, and add that class to the container class. So find orange buttons here, add that. And so now what's going to happen is anything within that container, because I've applied the orange buttons class to it, is going to pick up the properties for edit and button.
Ah,
And so there's that.
there you are.
There's
Orange.
that border. There's my text.
Very nice. Black text on orange. Reminds me of
Yeah,
Halloween.
gorgeous.
Wow.
So I just wanted to let you guys know how you do that. So
And
Thank you
that will
very
work
much.
with any control or any other method, like
yeah, that will work really with any control. I could add just a bunch of regular text boxes in here now.
I always wondered what tweaks were, so now I know.
Yeah, tweaks are definitely if you're not planning to like build an entire style sheet from scratch, you just want to take with what we've shipped and then
Not
adjust it to meet your needs. Style tweak is definitely the way to go, because if we add any new controls down the line, the style sheet will be updated to accommodate those controls, and you don't have to sit there and figure out how you're going to update your styles to get the styling.
For the control itself, can you associate that tweak just to the control, since it's not the advanced search? I mean, do the regular controls just accept a style? Looks pretty cool. Like go into design and move one of those controls out of the container.
Oh, for sure, yeah. So like these are in here, but if I move one outside the container, it won't be orange. It'll be just the regular color.
Right, but now could you associate that style with just that one control, kind of like
if you put a container
buttons
around it? Yeah.
You can put a container around it. Yeah, if you wanted like a very specific, like I want just orange text boxes, I just want that to be a thing. Another way to approach that would be to create a sub theme for the control, text box properties sub themes. So
we need to do a whole session on this.
Yeah, so we have primary and base, and they are not previewing here, and I think that's because I'm running 2 instances of Alpha Anywhere, and one of them is not current. But we have a whole bunch of subthemes that we ship. The button is the biggest example of subthemes. We got your standard button, and then we've got pill-shaped buttons, circle buttons, buttons that are best designed to work with icons, buttons that have drop shadows, buttons that have a solid background, buttons that have borders. So there's just a whole array of that.
Very cool.
Yeah.
Awesome.
That is definitely another thing to look at, is adding a sub-theme if you just want a specific style within the style sheet that you apply in rare instances.
Cool. Sarah, thank you very much. And
thank you.
Dion, thank you very much. And thanks everyone who attended. We have run out of time. Actually, we're over by a couple minutes, but I appreciate everyone sticking around. If you have any other questions, go ahead and send them to guides, GUIDES, @alphasoftware.com. And we look forward to seeing you here next Wednesday. Take care and goodbye.